Welcome back to the second video in our installment of creating this huge bar top. We're going to go over in this episode how we continued work on the first part and how we started work on the second part. So stick around, stay tuned, and get ready. So for the second part of this bar top that we were going to be doing, we had to do a small curve on it. So we got two separate pieces. We shaped them up, got them in the mold, and made it look like they were gonna curve. Now we used aluminum roofing siding to make the ends and the sides of this mold. We wanted it to have a wavy shape and a wavy form. So what we did is we got the pieces, we put some Tyvek on them, we screwed them into the base of our form, and then we went ahead and formed them the best we could with a little bit of wave on both sides of the form. You'll see here that the waves are on the inside and on the outside. Something different that we also did on here is we poured a real thin layer of tabletop epoxy in the beginning because we wanted to seal off any little areas that there could potentially be leaks, and we also wanted to adhere that wood to the form. That way it wasn't going to float, it wasn't going to move, and we would be ready to rock and roll. Then we went ahead and we mixed up a batch of turquoise and a batch of copper. Those two colors are awesome and they really go well together again. So we went ahead, mixed them up, and it was time to pour. Here we go. Look how cool those two colors go together. They really complement each other, and they really set each other off. The melding is just really impeccable of these two colors. For this particular project, we were going to go ahead and do a series of pours on these. We just didn't want to risk any spills or any leaks, and we wanted to make sure that everything was going to be solidified and ready to go. So we actually did 3 pours initially, and then we would pour our clear coat. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. We'll make sure and cover that portion in our next video, part 3. Anyways, let's get back. So after we got our color coats all poured up, we went ahead and stirred up the epoxy a little bit, got that epoxy moving and flowing and active, so that way we would be left with a really cool pattern, hopefully in the end. Then it was time to get our clear coat onto our first part of the bar top. We mixed up 3 gallons of Upstart Epoxy's deep pour. We went with just clear. Sometimes when the epoxy is a little cold, or sometimes when it's not heated up too well, you'll get off these bubbles after you mix it like that. It's nothing to worry about. They will dissipate, they will burn out, and you don't have to worry. You can still hit them with the torch or the heat gun, whatever, but it just takes time because this is deep pour. They will work their way out. You don't got to worry about it. And as a matter of fact, here's a perfect example. This was probably about 30 minutes after pouring the clear. And look how smooth and crisp that epoxy came out, folks. It really accentuates everything that's in there. It brings out a little bit of the grain, and it just really brings out all the details, whether in the wood or whether in your first pour with color. Then it was on to the next step. We had to take this bad boy outside, get it all planed up, get it sanded, get it smoothed up, and ready for its seal coat. So we got our slab jig router, we attached our router with a cleaning blade onto it, and we started at it. It was a long and painful process, but it all is worth it in the end. I can tell you that by doing this, what you're doing is you're flattening the high points. You're making them clean and you're making them level with the epoxy. That's what you want. That's what you need to do. Once you're done with that, if there's any little remaining small high points, take them off with the belt sander. I had some help on this one, so we were hard at it. We started off with 40 grit just to get off all those little burn marks or all those little saw marks. We went all the way up to 220 grit on this one, and it was looking good. Then what I went ahead and did is I got a grinder and I attached a shaping disc to it. We wanted to give the epoxy a matching live edge to butt up with the wood or to go along with the wood. The customer had requested that we do something like that, so it was really fun. After we were done doing that, we went ahead and sanded it up. Then we took it inside and we hit it with some alcohol to get off all the excess dust that didn't come off from the blower. So this is also a really fun part because it gives you kind of a little reveal of what it's going to look like. Now the alcohol isn't as thick as epoxy, so it's not going to look as pretty, but it gives you a quick idea of how it's going to look. Then it was time to disassemble our form for the second piece of our bar top. We unscrewed all the screws and it peeled off like a dream. Everything looked good, and man, that's a thick few pours of epoxy, I'll tell you what. But even better, the waviness that we wanted to achieve came out perfect. So stay tuned, folks, for part 3 to our bar top build using Upstart Epoxy. Once again, this is Steve, and we'll see you next time.